All right, well, great day today. The ink's drying on what I believe to be a historical signing class and a historical day for Western Kentucky football. And I think that the star ratings are what they are. And certain people put a lot of emphasis, a lot of value on that. I don't know that I put much emphasis on that whatsoever. I do know that I think we signed a historical class for this university. One thing that I've thought a lot about is just since I've been first stepped foot on campus in 2010 as an assistant coach under Willie Taggart, and then following the subsequent success for the next 7-8 years, really this past decade, since we've been an FBS program. Make no mistake about it, the successes that this program has experienced and the spoils that we've been able to enjoy as a result of that success, it was built through the very, very hard work, the labor, the elbow grease that was put in through recruiting and the building of this roster. And I had a chance to be firsthand part of that in 2010 and the 2011 recruiting classes, two classes I was a part of in signing, and seeing those players go on to achieve incredible success through 2015, 2016 even. And that to me is where we were at after this past season. We had to get back to the drawing board in terms of just continuing to enhance this roster and make this roster better and better every single year. And I think that we were able to achieve that without question today and with the December 20th signing period. One thing that I've had a chance to talk with our staff about, just our program, how we're gonna get this program to the point that it's sustainable year in, year out at the highest level. And it's really threefold. The program's gonna be defined by, number one, the acquisition of talent, number two, the development of that talent, and third, the performance of that talent on field. And today I feel like we acquired a whole lot of talent. And the acquisition of talent, really, to me, it involves, it's threefold. It involves the evaluation, and I really do believe that we have a great system in place with Zach Grant and Nate Dennison and our recruiting operation just to put forth great systems to evaluate. We've put eyes on more players than I've ever been a part of. As a staff, we have a system that goes from area coach to position coach to coordinator to head coach, and that's how we get so many different eyes on this, on each individual prospect that comes through. The second part of the acquisition of talent is to build the relationships, the relationship building piece of recruiting, which is so important. And we had a chance to get a full year of relationship building from the time we got here last January to today, in February 7th, 2018. And then lastly, to me, what the acquisition of talent comes down to is that, you got to put forth a customer service experience that's second to none once they step foot on your campus. And I think that Nate Dennison's role in that is absolutely paramount to our success. And we got a great community. We have great restaurants. We got great hotels to make this an enjoyable place for recruits to come to. And in this case, 23 players from 9 different states found Bowling Green, Kentucky to be their home. A couple notes to talk about this class is that we're going to find the absolute best players in our recruiting region, and we're not going to put any limit in terms of where we're going to get those players from. 9 states were represented. From 2 of the best football playing states in the country, without question, Georgia and Florida. We had 9 players from Georgia and 5 players from Florida that signed, and we're back into Florida. That's very clear. We're going to be back into Florida deep, getting great players. I saw that in 2010 and 2011. Saw the success of those players here on the Hill. We've got to be in Florida. Georgia continues to be a huge part of what we do. 2 years in a row, we've added quite a few players from the great state of Georgia. From our home state, I feel like we're ongoing with putting our class together. With the acquisition of gray shirts, who we can't comment on this time. And we had an unbelievable weekend of preferred walk-ons that came in. We want to get the best players from the state on our team. But one player that I'm extremely excited about is Shannon Beanie Bishop from PRP up in Louisville. The reason I'm so excited about him is that Joe Brown's his cousin, number one, and I like Joe Brown. He's a good player, and I saw a lot of Joe Brown and Beanie Bishop. Number two is Joe Brown was telling us we got to take his cousin, and I was, I'm always skeptical until I have a chance to see him with my own eyes. He comes into camp, and he ran a 4.31 and a 4.32 in back-to-back 40-yard dashes on our campus. And just to give some perspective on that, I think the next fastest 40 that we timed at that camp of roughly 350 players was a 4.68 roughly. So it was tangibly fast. Beanie Bishop adds that as a great cover corner as well. We needed to add length at the offensive tackle position. We got two offensive tackles that are 6'6" type bodies, long wingspan, guys that we needed that type of length out there on the edge to get what we need to get done in pass game and obviously in the run game as well. Big wingspan guys, and Gunnar Britton and Mason Brooks from the great state of Texas. It's good to get back into Texas as well. We also were able to sign two players from New Orleans, which has been a kind of a neat experience for me. I'd never recruited New Orleans until this cycle, and one of our graduate assistants, Matt Mitchell, he had the area as a graduate assistant, and due to us being down a coach for the last couple months, Matt Mitchell was able to go out on the road recruiting and did a great job in New Orleans. And as a result, we signed Garland LaFrance, who had the absolute fastest time in the entire country at the Nike Spark Series combine testing. Ran in a 3.83, I believe it was, short shuttle time, and was just short of a 40-inch vertical at the Spark Series as well. So dynamic football player, not just timing well. I think we addressed major needs at defensive back, defensive tackle, linebacker, and then at receiver as well. We've lost some production at receiver, and then the other part is that we signed the first four-star prospect in WKU history from a high school, directly from high school to WKU, Kevaris Thomas, and that's where you want it to start. You want it to start with your quarterback position. You want your quarterback to be the leader of your football team, and certainly you want him to be the leader of your class. We were very fortunate to sign him in December. To be perfectly honest, the way that we watched the quarterback recruiting kind of go in January and into February, Kevaris would be a Power 5 signing, no doubt in my mind, and that's what we got in Kevaris Thomas by building a relationship with him. Coach Crum has built a great relationship in Lakeland with the coaching staff there, and Kevaris is going to be a great addition. He's big, he's physical, he's tough. He can throw the ball on his tape. You'll watch it. There's one that's right about 77 yards legitimately on tape. So he's got plenty of arm talent, and he's got the mobility and toughness to go with it. So also today I have a chance to introduce our new offensive line coach. TJ Woods is going to join our staff, has joined our staff officially over the course of the last week. TJ Woods joins us with 5 years of Power 5 coaching experience in the Big Ten and Pac-12 conferences, with Wisconsin as the O-line coach at the University of Wisconsin, paving the way for a Doak Walker winner, and also at Oregon State, where his offensive lines were outstanding, running the football and protecting the quarterback. I've had a chance to watch TJ Woods' career, watched him coach firsthand. My father worked with him at Utah State. I had a chance while I was at Sanford to be at the bowl game, Utah State in the, I believe it was Utah State versus Toledo in the famous Idaho Potatoes Bowl back in 2011, 2012, right in there. Had a chance to watch him coach, watch his offensive lines come off the ball, and we are getting a premier offensive line coach to develop this group going forward. And I've also seen his offensive lines dominate. Wisconsin, watched that offensive line do incredible things, and TJ Woods has 7 offensive linemen that he's coached or recruited that are active NFL roster players. Just even during the Super Bowl, he was over at the house watching the Super Bowl, and there were 3 running backs in that game that either I had a chance to coach in Jay Ajayi, and then 2 of which Coach Woods had a chance to coach at Wisconsin, Corey Clement and James White. There you go. But I'm excited to have the opportunity to get a Power 5 tiered caliber type offensive line coach here at Western Kentucky, and it's going to be incredible for us. So with that, I'll open up for questions, and we'll go from there. Mike.
Mike, I always think it's hard to ask how you can project guys right away, but I will ask it this way. When you and your staff were out in the recruiting trail with these guys, how often did you use the names of Xavier Lane, Jakari Moses, Devin Key? You know where I'm going on that. I mean, guys that you signed and we saw on the field immediately.
Yeah, I mean, we made a big graphic, and every recruiting weekend that they came on campus, they saw that 11 true freshman players from last year's class played significantly. That's big. Just knowing that you have an opportunity to come in and compete to play, and a lot of times that number of true freshmen playing or not playing has something to do with the systems that you run, offense and defense and special teams. And what we told them, it's tangibly proven that we can play freshmen offensively and on defense, and with our special teams schemes, because they're not easy to pick up, but they're easy enough where you can get implemented and become a game-changing player in your freshman year. So it was big. It was really big to point to those successes, and then also have those players host those recruits when they come down on their official visit weekends. And that's a big thing for Jakari Moses to be able to host a running back, and he can say, I had a chance to play and play significantly as a freshman, and Xavier Lane to be a host for receivers and talk about playing as a freshman. So, there's not just the redshirt freshman that played, but also just the true freshman that played off last year's class. I think everybody wants to talk about, every head coach in America sits up here and talks about, we signed the best class in school history, and it's a great opportunity to put lipstick on a pig, if you will. And I don't believe that to be true. Last year we talked about this class that we put together in the 2017 class. 11 of those guys as true freshmen played. And a lot of those guys are going to be significant contributors and leaders of this team in 2018 and beyond. And I feel the same way about the class that we just brought in.
Can I follow up, Mike? You just mentioned, do you feel like then those freshmen from last year were unofficial recruiters, or since they're part of the team, official recruiters?
Yes, I do. I feel like, just those players, they want the best around them too. They want guys that love to play. They want guys on their roster that are going to push them to be better players, that are going to make the rising tides come, and make the ships go to levels that they've never seen. And that's what our freshmen want. So they became very active in recruiting. And what I really like is that the best player hosts on recruiting weekends are typically those that are closer in age to the players that are coming and visiting you, and in our case, we had so many that not only got to know us as coaches really well, but also had a chance to play and could talk about their experiences playing as true freshmen.
I know you said that star ratings aren't the most important thing to you, but you all have gotten a lot of praise. You ranked pretty highly in the conference. Do these star ratings kind of validate what you all saw with your own eyes, that you're getting some pretty good athletes in here?
I think so, yes. I think for me, an area that I've always taken very seriously as a recruiting coordinator, as an offensive coordinator at different levels that I've coached at, was just my ability to evaluate, and our ability as a staff to evaluate. And that goes even to my time at Sanford. When I was coaching there, I was a recruiting coordinator, and that's a full national recruiting operation. And so the evaluation of talent is so important for a program's success and sustained success. And I do think that we have a staff full of coaches that are of great eye for talent. I think that we have, with the 10 assistant coaches that we have different strengths in recruiting. Some are unbelievable on the road recruiters and farm their territory extremely well. Some of them are unbelievably good with the home visits, and I've had a chance to watch that unfold. But one thing that I do believe is common across the board on our staff is that we have great evaluators of talent, and I really mean that. I mean, I look through it and watch these guys evaluate the players that we bring onto campus. We meet together a lot to watch film as a staff, as a full staff, and evaluate players together. So I have a chance to hear exactly what the defensive tackles are being evaluated on by Coach Lindsey and Coach White, and then I get to hear what Coach Adams is saying at the receiver position, and then the defensive staff gets to hear that too. And I think that really helps us get on the same page in terms of what we're looking for, and it helps us all become better evaluators of talent, both in our areas and at our positions.
You got Krim, France, Spurlock all pretty late. What's that process like, keeping your eye on kids who maybe committed elsewhere and fall off and that whole cycle?
Yeah, I think it's important. I really enjoyed this two signing period deal, because the first signing period is kind of your traditional. This is the fruits of your labor over the course of the last 7, 8, 9 months, and then I really said, let's hit the reset button. Let's reset our boards. Let's look at exactly what our needs are going to be going forward, and kind of catch our breath, and then let's build this board from scratch. And I even think going back to last last year, some of the guys that we took in the last 4 days or so of our, leading up to signing day in the 2017 class, that was D'Angelo Malone. I mean, D'Angelo Malone had no recruitment going. He played as a true freshman, started as a true freshman. I mean, that's an incredible pass rusher. It's going to be a great player. Jacquez Sloan was another one of those. I mean, we beat Howard for him. And he plays and catches multiple touchdowns as a true freshman, averages dang near 30 a catch. That's the fun stuff in recruiting, is to be able to just get your eyes on the tape, kind of remove yourself from the process of seeing how they've gotten to that point, but just watch the film, get to know the kid and see if they're a fit. And in the case of Garland LaFrance and Anthony Spurlock and BJ Krim, I think those three guys are Power 5 players. I mean, they're Power 5 caliber players. They were all committed to Power 5 programs, Notre Dame, Oregon State, and Texas Tech at one point or another. And however it comes to fruition, whether other schools fill up, whether they weren't ready to sign December 20th, we wanted to build a relationship with them. We wanted to show them Western Kentucky, and in this case, we were able to sign all three of those players. Very good players. We're excited to have them.
Coach, I remember last year asking you about what the challenges were and what you learned about getting hired in December, late December, middle of December, and then having to sign a class within 2 months. What kind of challenges and things did you learn this time around, especially with that early summer period coming in?
That's a good question. I think the biggest challenge was just knowing the balance of how far along we wanted to get with our class, what percentage we wanted to occupy in that December period. What I've found, and I think this 15 to 18 range is probably a pretty good number. Because you don't want to. There are some players that we signed December 20th that would have gotten Power 5 offers, no doubt in my mind, and big time Power 5 offers that were committable. And so it was really important for us to because we had built the relationships with them, that there were strong enough relationships where they felt a commitment to sign with us regardless of what would be on the other side of December 20th. So that was important. I think I was a little concerned that we would sign too many on December 20th and not be able to do what I like to do in that scramble a little bit late and see what's available out there and kind of go around with the hair on fire type of 3 weeks that you can have leading up to February 7th. So those were really the kind of the new challenges. And then this new signing period is going to be something, completely new. The new official visit, new official visit time, April 1st to almost the end of June. It's going to be really interesting to see how that thing plays out. So we got to start talking and thinking about that.
Are y'all going to make Texas and Louisiana more part of your plans going forward? Is this kind of a one-time case of finding some guys down there late?
Texas is a place that I personally recruited for so long, so that wasn't a hard several phone calls to make to be able to make some connections to Mason Brooks. I did recruit Texas when I was at WKU before. Signed a couple players actually out of Texas. I don't think that needs to be a significant part of what we do, in terms of our everyday assets. But we'll keep our eyes on Texas. New Orleans, on the other hand, I am all for recruiting New Orleans going forward. I'll leave it at that. It was really good, really good area. There's certain areas of the country that a lot of people are recruiting, and there's certain areas that are a little under-recruited, and I'm pretty excited about New Orleans. Keep that a secret. It's really good to do that, talking to the media. Keep it a secret.
Coach, I know you want to get the quarterback involved in the run game. How does bringing a guy like Tavares Thomas, the speed that he has, how can that really open up this offense a bit with the zone read and all the other things you all want to do?
Really, when you look at, even just watching the national championship game this year, you watch the CFP Final Four, and, quarterback position it's a mobile position. Defenses now are set up to basically defend with an extra hat, an extra body in the box because of the mobility of a quarterback. And if that quarterback doesn't threaten that extra hat, then you have an extra tackler for the running back. So it's important for us and what we do to utilize a quarterback-driven run, and that'll be Kivaris. We'll bring that element, but the thing I like about Kivaris is his arm talent is probably his number one trait. High-end, high-ceiling arm talent. Just happens to be packed into a 6'3", 246-pound body that can run and run through all kinds of arm tackles. So I'm anxious to get working with Kivaris. He's going to be fun to for Coach Spurrier to work with, for me to work with, and it's going to be a good time.
With the loss of Mike, why do you think he has the potential to maybe even come in as a true freshman and see the field some?
We bring in every single player that comes in that we sign with the intent of finding a way to compete, and that's going to be what I do every year going forward. When you have an established quarterback like Mike White, it's maybe a little bit different story. Davis Shanley didn't probably come in with the same aspirations to beat out Mike White, but I do think that all of our players that do come in will come in here with the mindset of learning as fast as you can, drinking through a fire hose and trying to get as much as you can down, ingested, and be ready to go out there and compete to play.
Mike, about TJ, you mentioned that your dad coached with him at Utah State. Did your dad say anything? I mean, when Kyle sent out the release on TJ, obviously you talked about his resume, it's very impressive. But was there something that your dad told you about TJ, whether it was in a practice setting, a meeting room, or a game situation, specific that your dad said, you said, hey, this guy's got it. This guy can flat out coach?
Yep. I think the biggest one is that he said that he's tough as all get out on the players, on the field, in the meeting room, but he's got the ability to throw his arm around them and that they know that he cares for them. And that's important with that group. We want tough guys. We want guys that come off the ball with the mindset of moving people and play with unbelievable effort, great chip on their shoulder, but we also want a group that's well connected to one another, and the leadership of that position will set that example of caring for each other, and that was important to hear that firsthand from my father, that he's seen that tough love, if you will, where you coach them hard, you develop them hard, but then you throw your arm around them and you let them know that this is going to be a unit that is defined by togetherness.
Coach, last year you obviously struggled running the ball, but now with the offensive linemen brought in, with the other players brought in, and TJ, do you feel you now have the right pieces, both player-wise and coaching-wise, to kind of get that element of the offense back on track?
Very important. I mean, that's going to be our off season. Really, I mean, that's the number one emphasis. We dug in. We got off the road. This past weekend we had a recruiting weekend, and then Monday morning we're diving right into run game, talking about how we're going to call things, talking about what we're going to do run game wise, and what we're going to do, pass protection wise. But that's all of us. I mean, that's every single one of us. That's myself. Being involved in it. That's Coach Adams. That's Coach Woods. That's the running backs. It's the players, it's the coaches. I mean, it's a full operational deal that we need to make this an emphasis, because I want to be a balanced but explosive offense, and that's important for me. And we lacked that balance this year. There's reasons for it. We're continuing to uncover that in terms of the self scout that we're working through. But I think it really does start with a mindset, being committed to doing it, and adding to that group from a recruiting standpoint, from a coaching expertise standpoint. I feel great about what we're going to do going forward, but it's going to be a long project, and it's a buy-in not just from the offensive line position group, but from everybody.
Coach, you mentioned recruiting in Kentucky. How important is that to recruit homegrown talent and go against some of these other schools that will also be recruiting Kentucky players?
Yeah, no, I think it's really important. I think the thing that we've done 2 years in a row. I mean, we started with the Hilltopper, the Topper takeover. Went in every single high school in the state of Kentucky, which was really important for us. We wanted to recruit the right players for what our program needs were, what our program fit was, and that's important. Meeting a quota is whether it be in the state of Georgia, in the state of Florida, in the state of Kentucky. That's not going to be important to me. It's going to be about getting the best players to fit what we're about. Now, in the state of Kentucky, we've got to know who the best players are that meet our needs, and I think that's important for us. It started today. We watched 2019, 2020 prospects from the state of Kentucky. We started last year in the state of Kentucky. We started this year in the state of Kentucky. When we're building our class, and we sit down and watch and evaluate film as a full staff, we always start here in our backyard. Always, and we always will, and we'll never change that. Now, in terms of signing them, there's a lot of factors that play into that. who offered them, what our program needs are positionally. So there's a lot of that. But then the other part I can't stress how important it is our preferred walk-on program. You just look at this past season, probably two of our most productive players on our football team, were guys that were walk-ons when this staff got here. Coco Darden on defense and Deion Yelder on offense. And if you tell me that preferred walk-ons aren't important, I'll show you those two examples, and I'll show you a Senior Bowl touchdown catch. That's really important to us.
Did you leave some scholarships open so maybe you can have a transfer or two during the summer?
Absolutely. And I think looking back to last year, I was glad I did it. Cam Eccles-Looper was a good addition for us and provided some needed explosiveness at receiver that we had missed, obviously, from the previous year, with Chibo and Taiwan being gone. And just having that spot, it's even more paramount this year. And there's the new NCAA rules put the hard cap at 25 scholarships. You used to essentially be able to count scholarships forward, backward, underneath, over the top. Nowadays, it is a hard cap. You bring in a player that's not on your campus for 2 years or more, he's going to count towards your 25 scholarships, period. So teams that are if you look around and you start seeing who's signed national letters of intent, if teams have 25 that they sign, they can't add one player to their roster that's a scholarship player. I mean, it is a hard cap. And so us signing 23 gives us 2, and we have a really good idea of where we want those scholarships to be allocated.
Is it a selling point having all these players training for the NFL draft right now? And then what would you like to say about those guys that are training?
Yeah, it really is. It's been fun to watch, particularly Mike and Dion in that Senior Bowl. It was great. It was during the recruiting weekend. We had I think we had 7 official visitors that weekend. It was, I guess that was 2 weekends ago, right? Am I wrong? It wasn't this past weekend. That was the Super Bowl. 2 weekends ago. I lost track of time, but and just we were sitting at Steamers having lunch, and there's Mike White throwing a touchdown. That's awesome. That chrome helmet to be out there. We're hosting recruits. That's a powerful deal. You're sitting; those kids are visiting from Florida or Georgia or right down the road in Kentucky, and they're looking up at a screen in Bowling Green watching a WKU player at the Senior Bowl. That's a dream for all those players. And then for Iggy to be invited to the Combine too, what a great honor, and it validates his decision, to be quite honest. And we support him fully in that decision. I support him fully. I think that his rationale behind doing that was incredibly pure. I think Iggy he has basically 2 goals. Number 1, wants to play in the National Football League, and number 2, he wants to go to medical school and graduate and become a doctor. And he was very honest and open with us in his goal setting, and was forthcoming the entire time. And I support him. And I will talk to all the NFL personnel about all our guys, particularly Iggy and Dion and Mike, and those guys are going to know how much we support those guys.
Thanks, Coach.